and welcome to Enquire to Choir. My name is Eva and I'm here to help you, fellow choir people. This is a video about how to improve the sound of your choir. Simple? Not so much. Because there are a million possible ways your choir sounds right now, so how could I possibly know how to help you without hearing your choir? Well, I really tried to make this video as general as possible. There are 10 advice, and spoiler alert, doing vocal technique, which I know you were probably expecting to be very prominent, is number 10. All of the things mentioned here may seem to you a bit unconventional, but I ask of you to give it a chance. Let's start with the first one. Analyze your choir sound thoroughly. Be brutally honest. This is very hard, I know, but in order for you to make your choir sound better, you need to do this. Listen to the recordings of your choir's performances. What's wrong with the sound? Can you define it? Is it about the color, the timbre, the pronunciation, the pitch, the balance? Which songs sound better? Which style sounds more natural? Are they together in tempo? Paying attention to the conductor equally? Which dynamics are problematic? Many questions. But for you to analyze the sound of your choir is not enough, because you are biased. Even if you don't want to believe this, you are. Your ears don't hear the same as someone who is not working with your choir and listening to their singing all the time. Ask for other opinions. Your colleagues, your friends who know their stuff. If you have ever gotten a professional critique at a choir competition, for example, read it through again with fresh eyes. The problem with this process is you really have to be strict. You have to search for and find all the bad things, and you can't balance them out with the good things they do. You think some of the problems don't matter right now? That may well be, but it will come back to you from behind. Literally, make a list of all the things you need to fix. Then look at that list and start making a plan. Which issues are a priority? Which can be fixed in less time? Which are unbearable? Which will take years? Divide them into groups. After doing all this, you now know the real state of things. That is more than most people do. Trust me. Once you have this great knowledge about your choir sound, you need to see what you're working with when it comes to your choir members. When was the last time you checked on them? Really checked on how their voice is evolving? Do a test audition for existing choir members. I don't mean this in a strict way. It's about getting to know your singers from a new point of view. And this point of view is, I now know what all the problems and issues with the sound are. If you're working with an amateur choir, all things can change in a matter of months. For example, a quiet female singer who you identified as an alto when she came to the audition evolved, learned something about her voice, practiced, and developed a better sound, which maybe doesn't even belong in altos anymore because she was never an alto to begin with. She just sounded like one. I know many of us don't want to admit how often this actually happens. And it happens because we are not working with people who have been in tune with their voices all of their lives. Sometimes a person's timbre is the result of not knowing the right vocal technique. True that. Do this test audition, especially if this is a choir you have inherited from another conductor. You never know how this person worked. Maybe you really disagree with his or her choices and point of view. You don't have to do this audition as a test per se. You can do it in a way of trying to help each individual to become even better. You can analyze where the choir sound problems are coming from. The group sound is the result of individual sounds combined together. A single singer affects the sound, affects what his or her voice group sounds like. So if you start from an individual and you really define his or her strengths and weaknesses, you can accumulate all of this knowledge and start working on fixing the issues. Be thorough and write a useful report card for every singer. Do so lovingly and keep it to yourself. Of course, there are better and weaker singers, but everyone matters and everyone can improve. After you do this, don't you dare have this thought, oh my god, I need new singers. No. New singers can come, but you really need to work with the singers you already have, because they are the ones who make your choir. It seems like an easy fix. I'll just find new, better singers. But choirs and choir sounds don't work like that, and you know it. Don't take the easy way out. Do your work with the people you already have. They could surprise you. My MVP on this list is number 3. Position your singers carefully, intentionally, thoughtfully, and permanently. I mean this physically. When you really know your singers, you can really help your choir sound better by placing them correctly. We all think about how the group voices should stand. There is a rule or a practice where the sopranos stand, where the altos, etc. But rarely do people think about where individual singers stand. It is not the same if your loudest soprano is sometimes at the end of the first row, other times in the middle of the second row. If you position that soprano differently every time, you get a different sound every time. So how can you improve your sound if you're working with a different sound every time? I don't understand why I was never told this one, so I really hope this sticks with you. Every choir member should have the same position in the choir physically, all the time, every rehearsal, every concert. That way, each singer is surrounded by the same group of people, and she or he can adjust her or his sound, timbre, dynamics, color all the time. To me, this is so logical, but damn, I had to get to this myself. Nobody ever told me this. Purposefully positioning your choir members is a battle half won. I think I will do a separate video about this. Let me write it down. Okay, so now you have your bass. It's all about that bass, right? Now what? Where do you start? Well, for me, the choir sound is about singers singing as one. And most importantly, their energy feels as an undivided collective. My advice would be start from singing in unison. We are so used to multi-voice sound that we sometimes forget. One of the most difficult things is to get a uniform choir sound while everyone is singing the same melody in unison or in octaves. Plus, we are a bit spoiled by the 4-6-8 voices literature. Story time. When I first started working with my mixed choir 5 years ago now, I started with what I thought was a simple 4-voice arrangement. And boy, was I surprised when I realized how bad it was going. It was so difficult for them. I had to go back to the start, and the start was everybody sings the same melody. We look down on this, but this way the singers can hear themselves. They have to adapt better to each other because the element of chords is now taken out of the equation, and this gives them the opportunity to lose the fixation on the right notes in general and really focus on all the tones be unanimous, that everyone's A is really the same A. Additionally, they have to stay in the same tempo, take the same breaths, sing with a similar timbre for all the sound to make sense. For that, they need you, their conductor. They need to look at you and learn how to follow you. And this is easier when there is just one melody. They develop a better sense of what you mean when you say they need to fix something the way you say they should. In fact, try this test. I'll bet you anything it will work. Let them start singing the melody without your conducting. I guarantee they will either fall apart or they will start rushing in tempo together as a group. Let me down in the comments if you tried this and what happened. Even better, do this unison thing, but take on a non-choir song. Hear me out. You take a non-choir song currently playing on the radio all the time and you give it to them to sing as one. They're motivated because rarely that happens that a choir gets a non-choir song currently very popular to sing. And that's the trick. They all know the song and they all start to sing it like they want to, their way. And if everything goes to plan, it sounds terrible because nobody's listening to each other. And they can hear it. They can hear everything is falling apart. And slowly they start to realize they have to listen to each other better and they really need to follow their conductor. The perfect song for this for my mixed choir was then very popular, Beautiful All of Me by John Legend. It's a tough song to sing because of all the rhythms and the improvisational feel to it. Your choir members really need to cooperate to make it sound good. Now let's talk about the color of the sound, the timbre or the harmonic sound of your choir sound. Can you tell English is not my mother tongue? Number 6, it's about how all the voices correlate to each other. Let me explain. We often see definitions like sopranos are lighter, basses are massive. That's true, but that's so general. My sopranos in my young mixed choir don't sound the same as the sopranos in the adult one. The sopranos in my beloved female vocal ensemble are something else completely. In fact, they're a very good example of proving my point. In that female vocal ensemble, there are 12 singers. Some of them are sopranos, some of them are altos, some of them are in between. So how to develop a good sound? I tend to position them so their voices correlate to each other the best way they can. Each singer stands in between two singers who have the closest voice color to theirs. That's the only way I can get a uniform sound. If I put them in random groups without thinking it through, the color would never be the one I'm aiming for. So yes, soprano is lighter than alto, but it depends how much. It's all about how each voice relates to its neighbors. That's why I asked you to study your singers individually. If you have really light sopranos and really massive deep basses, you have to fill in the sound in between with so many different colors to make it sound harmonic, because the spectrum of sound you need to fill in is enormous. My point is, let go of some of the theory you have learned and rely on your ears. What do you hear? Which color is missing? Which group is to something? You shouldn't listen to them separately. You should make them correlate to each other. And the best part, the ratio between them you develop, it needs to be adjusted all the time. Adjust the color all the time. Be very particular about this. Different vocals, different consonants, chords, dynamics. The color of the sound changes all the time. It is very hard for an individual to sing in the same spectre all the time. How could then this be easier for a choir as a group? Develop a constant critical ear, which can seem annoying, yes, but after you train your ear and learn how to guide your choir on every tone, they will start listening to themselves better and more carefully. I somehow get the sense that people tend to think, oh, once I find my choir sound, you just go with it. No, it's never the same. And you have to become aware of this in order for your sound to become better. Number 8, separate rehearsals. It's nothing new. Or, I suppose you do this. When a choir has to learn a new piece to read the notes first, you put on separate rehearsals. Either each of them separately, soprano separately, alto separately, etc. Or you do soprano, alto rehearsal and tenor bass rehearsal. That's how I was taught. Until I asked myself, why are rehearsals done this way? Why sopranos and altos are together? Because they're female voices, so the technique is more similar. I don't think that's true because their timbra is different, very different. And don't get me started on tenors and basses. They're the most different group of voices, at least in my opinion. Why do tenors, for example, have to learn to adjust their singing only to basses and vice versa? Why don't tenors ever get the chance to correlate themselves to altos, for example? My advice is this: diversify your separate rehearsals. Sopranos with altos, sopranos with tenors, sopranos with basses, altos with tenors, altos with basses, tenors with basses. If you do all of these combinations for separate rehearsals, how much you can learn about your choir members, and your choir's sound, and how many opportunities you have to make your sound better. Number 9, analyze what you will need in the future. This concerns everything, but especially when it comes to adding new members. If you have a really clear definition of what kind of voices you already have and what the tenor timbra is like, for example, you know what kind of a tenor singer will be best suited for your choir and in what direction you want to take your choir. It's all about planning your improvement, starting from microcosmos to macro, step by step, yes, but you should always be aware of what your next step should be. And finally, your favorite, number 10, do vocal technique. Of course, this is very important. You should spend time on your choir getting the right vocal technique. But I will not talk about what kind of vocal technique you should be doing because I don't hear your choir. I never heard it. And I don't actually know how to improve your choir sound without listening to them. Who knows, maybe in the future I will get the opportunity to meet some of you and hear your choirs. But for now, in videos where I don't know, I will not perjure myself. And I don't feel comfortable preaching to you what you should be doing. And I don't even know your situation. So yes, do vocal technique. If you don't know the right vocal technique, find someone who knows. A trained singer in 1 hour of lessons could improve your sound exponentially. I just want to tell you this. Just because you were trained, the choir should be doing operatic vocal technique doesn't mean it has to. Because if you're working with a modern pop choir, I don't think operatic singing is for them. So just be aware that you do have a choice and the pressure of that choice, but you do have a choice. This was long, but there was no other way. I hope you find this helpful. And who knows, maybe it's changed your perspective in some aspects. I also want to take this opportunity to say hello and welcome to all the new subscribers. And for all of you, I really wonder who you are, how you found this channel, what you were looking for, and with what kind of choirs are you working with. I'm really interested to know. So if you wish to say anything about this, please comment down below. I would be happy to get to know you a bit better. If you wish to talk to me, go to the comment section, Facebook, email, and if you wish to see more from Enquire to Choir, you can check out all the other videos here and you can subscribe. Conduct well, conductors. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you next time. Bye!